Greek proverb, I am because we are, is the foundation of the ACBN YouTube channel. Tap in for all of our remarkable content and ecosystem mobilization through the phenomenal practitioners and thought leaders we engage on this channel. In the words of Adrienne Marie Brown, things are not getting worse, they are getting uncovered. We must hold each other tight to pull back the veil. Get ready for another amazing ACBN powered interview.
So Joanne, if you can, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you currently do.
So my name is Joanne Stone-Campbell. I'm Anishinaabe, originally from Northern Ontario, from a First Nations community called Michipicoten. And probably when I left home was about 50 people, right on the northern tip of Lake Superior. So a little bit isolated. I came to Vancouver for vacation for 2 weeks and ended up moving out probably a month later. Yeah, so been here over 30 years. I semi-retired out of education in my, I'd say mid-50s, 36 years in education.
Wow.
And then I decided to go back to school because my daughter was in grade 12 and no, grade 11, I think, grade 11 or 12. And I'm thinking a single mom. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life now that my daughter is going to be like on her own? And now this is my life. She's going to be, you know, on her merry way soon and on her doing her own thing. So I decided to go back to school and get my MBA in business. So worked full time, went to school full time, and raised my daughter. And yeah, so it all worked out, and there was lots of tears, but I did finish my degree, and also get a certificate from the University of Arizona as well in Indigenous Studies during that same time. Just finished it probably a couple of years after that. I have a daughter who's 20 years old. Her name is Cascade. She's my dream miracle baby. I didn't think I could have kids. So yeah, so she's my miracle baby. So so she's 20 now. She'll be 21 in June.
Wow.
She's third year university at UBC and is doing her dual degree, which is master's in management. So hopefully be done in a few years. Yeah, we live in a First Nation community now in Squamish Nation, West Vancouver, a big community. This is where her dad is from. So we built ourselves a house, and yeah, now I live here in the big house by myself. My daughter lives at university, but comes home often, which is great. Yeah, so I carry 3 names. My name that I was given from my community here is Iy'imelwit, which means blanket of strength. I also carry a spirit name from my people in Ontario, which is Sound of Thunderbird Speaking. I also was adopted in a potlatch in Alert Bay by a family, the Isaac family, and was given the name Mulladie a few years back. So I'm quite honored to have 3 names. That's what gives me the strength to do what I have to do and to face some of the challenges that I face in life. So yeah, I grew up on reserve. I lived off reserve for a while, owned a condo in the big city of North Van. And but it was a brick building, beautiful, expensive, you know, everything everybody ever wanted to own their own place. But I was pregnant, and I thought, I don't know if I want my daughter to live in this place very long. Like, you know, baby, yes, but when you're constantly asked, where do you live or who you visiting, instead of ownership. So, you know, you face some of those. I did get close to a couple people in the building, but everybody else thought I was visiting, or, you know, that I didn't own. So I guess, you know, breaking those barriers. And I thought, well, I don't want my daughter to grow up like that. So we moved back to the First Nation and built a house, because it's all her family, her dad's side of the family. And I wanted her to grow up knowing her people, knowing her family, and being part of the culture and history and language, and have a close-knit relationship with all her family. So yeah, so she's doing good. She's a well-rounded young lady, and it's turned into almost like a friendship now.
Yeah.
So we travel together and we hang out, so it's good.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love hearing your story, and like it's different because I've only interviewed male elders. So now speaking to a woman who's talking about like motherhood and moving through those phases as well, it brings like a lot to the table, especially you know, for people like myself, and just hearing that side is like it's divine, like it's so divine. And so you like what I think you were talking to Victor previously about the work that you're doing now with Indigenous finance, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now and how you currently help the community.
So after getting my degree, I went back to education and realized I wanted more. I wanted to learn more, and I deserve more. And looking at pre-retirement or retirement, like you gotta have some money in the bank. So I'm like, I think I have to find a different job. I love students. I just didn't like the politics and education, and I wanted to do better for our people. So I was going to take a year off to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. But I end up being approached by Vancity to come work for them in a partnership portfolio role. So what I did was I looked through some different lines of business. How can we decolonize some of the processes? What can we do differently? This was the first position that Vancity had for First Nation or Indigenous people. My previous person that was before me, he was non-Indigenous, but great guy, had a strong connection with the community. So I just built on that, what he had done. And it was a coworker that I worked with too in the school. So we kind of knew what each other did. So I came into the business and it worked on a few different areas. So building partners with Indigenous communities, looking at what we had to serve Indigenous communities, looking at some of the barriers that our people faced. How can we make changes in the line of business? Looking at different ways of seeing if there's biases in the process, seeing how we could do things differently, and what are some of the gaps. So looking at that whole process, so some of the things that came out of it was this background that I have is wealth mindset. So this financial literacy program that we developed, Vancity had another program, is Teach One, I can't remember the correct name of it, Each One Grow One or something like that. And so when I looked at that curriculum, I thought, I can't relate or I can't connect because they're not telling my stories, and I don't see any of our faces in the curriculum or any of our stories. So I said, can we design another curriculum that is strictly for Indigenous people? And so we can have some Indigenous stories, relatable stories, a connection, some faces, some backgrounds like we have that has a strong connection of who we are, and to share some of our own mindset of what money means to us. So including our talking circle into it, including our elders to be part of the experience, and training our Indigenous staff at the financial institution so that they can go out and share this information. So that's what we're doing now. We've trained, I'm not 15, maybe internal staff. So they go out and present the curriculum. So it's a circle module, which is about a 3-hour program. And then we have the 1 hour, which is basic banking and basic budgeting. So 3 modules and that are going out to the community. The first one is a real crucial part though, is understanding what money means to you or what has been your upbringing. So really having a deep discussion with our community. Lots of emotions come out because people were living paycheck to paycheck or living on limited funds or were considered poor or broke. Some lost to money, you know, serious hurt and pain that money has caused our people. So just sharing some of those stories and then sharing some of our wealth. So getting people to think of, we are wealthy people.
Yes.
Maybe not in the sense of the mighty dollar, but for us, it's like the size of your family. We know our connections to family, right? We have so many, we just don't know our immediate family. We know generations of our family, right? Our potlatch system, what that means, our spiritual, our language, how many songs you know, how many stories you know. That's all wealth in our community is really huge. How many potlatches you have done. So honoring, so the spirituality of those things, our knowledge of our history, because it was oral history. So if you have a lot of that knowledge now, like you're a pretty wealthy person to have some of that knowledge. And how do we keep sharing some of that knowledge? So including all that in there. So we do the financial wealth. So looking at through lines of business and seeing what we could do differently or if it meets the needs of our community. So what we found out too is we don't have a branch on reserve on our First Nation, so that, you know, to be an inclusive place, to be a welcoming place, to be a little different. When our elders walk through that door, how do we support them? For maybe low income, how do we best support them? Maybe with ID issues. And how do we invest in our people who have money? How do we make the best investment for them? So those are some areas. Staffing, diversity in our looking at some of those areas within the Institute, hiring, but also retention. Anybody could hire, it's to keep them. Or why they're leaving, right? So understanding some of those things. So just building our Indigenous staffing is really important. And also sharing our story, telling our story in a good way. So yeah, those are some of the things that I do at Van City. I advocated to hire a senior level position because one person can't do it all. We do have 2 now. So we have a director who is going to be doing some of the strategic planning of writing the document. And then we have an associate who helps me with some of our granting. So we do a lot of the granting for Van City. Van City gives out 30% of the money they make, investment. So we give that back to the community. So I'm a big supporter of our Indigenous community. How do we reach them and how do we share some of our wealth with our Indigenous communities? So building that platform in housing, entrepreneurship, business partners. Yeah, so doing that kind of work, going into our community is really, really important. So we try to go in because one of our hereditary chiefs said it's not a service we want a relationship. So that's where we try to go. So being in the community for many years, I know a lot of the contacts and I have a strong relationship with a lot of my partners in supporting them. I don't know everything about banking. So we have specialists in different areas, and we're trying to find more Indigenous people who are specialists in those areas to support the work that we're doing. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely well-rounded. I feel like where you chose to do like the bulk of your work now around finance, like finance touches everything. But what I love the most about what you said is getting into our money blocks and like really learning where did we even learn about money in childhood and what did we see. So that part really gave me chills because just from my own journey and like speaking with other people as well. But let's kind of get into the question. So my first question is, can you share what you feel characteristics of eldership are? So what do you think key characteristics of eldership entails?
So I think there's really no set age in our communities. Like I think I'm still young, going to be 60 this year. And I've been addressed as an elder by some of my students. And I'm like, oh gosh, but I think we're in transition. It's a gradual transition to going into those important roles. And I think some people are elders at 55 in our community. Some are elders at 65. Some people will look at elders at 75. Some will look at people when they're quite involved in the community or do some great things. So people will look at elders as a different character. So I can't really pinpoint as to one or the other or an age or yeah. So I think a lot of our elders' characteristics is that they have a lot of knowledge, life experience, been there, done that type thing. They provide guidance from their own experience as well. This is what worked for me. They provide a safe space in wherever we are, whether it's education or financial or knowledge keepers. Teaching of respect. So being respectful and then, not afraid to tell people some of our values and correct people. And excellent listeners, very excellent listeners will listen to us, non-judgmental, non-judgmental. They have good knowledge of self. Again, growing up and having to go through all those different areas of life really gives them a solid foundation of who they are and where they're going and what they can offer. They serve as teachers, healers for some, advisors, counselors, maybe not in the quote educational field of a therapist type thing, but they have some tools. They have a whole bag of tools that they can use from their experience. Some of them are language speakers, and that's it's really tough in a lot of communities now because a lot of our elders who are language knowledge keepers are dying, and it's how do we get that knowledge out of them before they're gone? Some nations have very little language speakers, so it's kind of scary. And some of our elders, I worked with elders in education for a long time, and some of them had said sometimes their eldership, I guess, is not by age, but is earned by their respect, like wisdom, harmony, and balance, and how well they keep themselves. And there's some elders out there, like in all communities, you have to do your check-ins with who they are, if they're living a good life, like anything, right?
Yeah.
If they're good, living a good life, and if they've kind of work they did, and yeah, so I guess approaching elders, some are not ready for elderhood.
Right.
Again, like we look at the age, right?
Mhm.
But some of them are just like they're big teddy bears, and comfort, like grannies.
Mhm.
They they want to open their doors so you can go sit and have tea with them.
Mhm.
They're open to that. They want to share their knowledge, right? They want to be able to sit down and tell their stories. So yeah, so it could mean many different things, characteristics of an elder, both male and female. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's funny because what comes up a lot is there's a difference between an older and an elder. That comes up often. But one thing that definitely stuck out was you saying, you know, a lot of the information that and like the language holders that these elders have are not being passed down. And it is scary because as I like continue to age and get older, I find myself going back to like my elders to hear this like information that I'm not gonna see in a university, like, you know, like key information that really helps you to stay connected to your spirit as you spoke about spirituality and also navigate in this world. So 100%. One of the things that are very important, but is there anything else that comes to mind from your perspective that makes an elder important in the community? Is there anything else?
Um, like I watch and see what elders do
Mhm.
and how they live. And today is really nice because long time ago, our elders didn't have an education,
Right.
right? And so they weren't treated with respect in, like, let's say, education because they didn't have that degree because of residential school, because of our past history.
Mhm.
But today, a lot of those elders have degrees and they're retiring. So you can find an elder with a degree now who's retired to bring them into whatever environment, whatever corporation,
Mhm.
to give you that advice, which is really nice. And what I really love about our Indigenous elders is we honor and uplift our elders,
Mhm.
where non-Indigenous society don't take that same role.
Yeah.
Um, they don't bring them into their work to be an advisor,
Mhm.
or they don't honor them as an elder. So our elders will usually live with us in family. We don't usually put them in a home. The
Mhm.
odd one may go into an old age home where non-Indigenous, that's their next step after leaving home. They'll go into a care home where
Right.
our people take care of our elders at home, which is totally different. Um, yeah, different. And I think it's um, just another gradual where our community comes together to support. So, um, I told we talk about that when I tell my daughter when I get older, like, she might have to take care of me. I said, don't go put me up in an old age home
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
not come see me after, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's great discussions we have now is like, what does that elderhood look like? And
Mhm.
what are we transitioning, even the financial world?
Mhm.
How am I transitioning into that elderhood? And how can I take care of myself with some of the benefits and some
Mhm.
who don't have benefits? Um, yeah, so I think I just see elders as like, why can't we have this knowledge and these skills and this personality when we're a lot younger?
Yeah.
Imagine where we'd be. But I think our generations are changing because of our past history. Like there
Mhm.
was lots of hurt and pain for our people. Like I'm first generation out of residential school. Um, so You know, I think my daughter is totally different, living a different lifestyle than I did, or our grandparents, right? But maybe it's her children or her children's children that will live a way different lifestyle and be able to be that those knowledge, have those not so many barriers in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, I again love what you're saying, because it's like, as much as we don't like, challenge builds character. So we know that challenge will come. And I feel like a lot has happened to a lot of the world, will kind of trigger the minds of younger people to go and explore something other than what they are currently seeing. So I do believe you, like possibly like grandchildren or great grandchildren, we may find this information again, and it'll be like, it comes back around full circle. I mean, that's nature, right? It goes through its seasons. So that definitely resonated with me. And like, I guess what comes up next is how do you honor, or how do you see within your community, like how should we be honoring our elders, aside from, yeah, I mean, putting them aside, out of sight, out of mind? Like, how can we honor our elders and actually see value in that for ourselves? Not just like, oh, we're just doing this for our elders, but it actually comes back full circle, full circle.
I think our elders should be always honored and celebrated. They should be, so in our communities, when you go to a feast or potlatches, it's our elders that get up first to go eat, or our youth will serve our elders. So there's that respect there. Some elders don't want to be served. They want to do it themselves because they're independent, and they just, they're fussy, and they just want to do it themselves, which is great, independent, right? Certain elders will sit in certain spaces that are designated for our elders, whether it's health or whether it's honor or respect or whatever that may be, but there's certain areas just for elders that us, young people can't sit. I love to gift our elders, either with a blanket or some type of gift, just to thank them for taking the time to come out and support us in the work that we do. So we have our elders who come and help us with the wealth mindset. So we pay them an honorarium so that they could, helps them in their pension too, as right. So, but I think being in education, we have to treat our elders as almost like they have a PhD. Because they have that knowledge that no one else has. Exactly. And yeah, they don't have the degree. Some of them don't, but they have lived experience that is so huge, right? So, people say, oh yeah, we should just pay them, $50 or whatever. We're like, no. How much, you look at the pay grade of corporations bring in for their big speakers. And then for maybe other speakers, they'll just like lower their rate. So where do we meet in the middle somewhere, especially for our elders? So really, even when we invite them, we always tell them, take your time. If you need to step off camera or leave the room and go lay down on the couch for a little bit, or go eat something because it may have maybe diabetic or something, health issues, really take your time to take care of yourself. We understand that maybe you can't do a whole day. You maybe only do a few hours. You may love it. You will stay the whole day because you love the topic and you feel warm and you feel included and supported and valued. So yeah, some of our elders just like, oh, no, I'll stay. And we're like, it's a long day. No, it's no problem. But sometimes it's even honoring them with rides, like paying their taxi or Uber today, or assistant. like maybe a relative from their family to help them, walk them to a conference or to speak. So really treating them like royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just making sure they're always asking them what they need and how could we make them feel like this is the way I always wanted to be treated, and this is the way, and they're gonna want to participate, right? And it just uplifts them for those hours, maybe those weeks, and how they're treated when we bring them out to community or events or stuff, right? Sometimes it's just inviting elders out to events as well. Maybe they don't have to do nothing, but having that elder in your presence. One of my past students, I said, well, I said, you don't access the elder? And he goes, no. He goes, but as long as the elder is in there in our space, I know we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it's not about getting them to work for their money. It's having their presence so that they could learn and feel value, and so that they could feel healthy. Part of their wellness plan too is be a part of things, to learn and to grow and to heal, right? So I just think about how I would like to be treated as an elder when I go somewhere. To be asked for my knowledge, to be asked for my presence, and to be valued for my worth.
Yeah, the respect piece that you bring up often, it's like remembering or allowing elders to remember, like they are important. You are important. You are also wanted. Like the society, as you said, makes, elders feel unwanted, and elders are the ones that actually have the majority of the gifts to give. And so we can do our part and give offerings. That when you said, like, you can bring them a gift, like, to me, that's an offering, and just being thankful for the spirit and the knowledge of that individual. So I love the perspective that you're bringing today, and I'm sure it's going to make people think about even their own grandparents and how they can even level up their respect and honor their grandparents in just a different way.
And when you have your elder in presence, is introduce them to people. Because I know one of my aunties would say, my family really doesn't introduce me to other people. What is that about? So we have to think about how those elders feel. When my mom comes, I'm introducing her to everybody because I love my mom. She's still like 79. She's going to be 79. She's still taking care of her great grandchildren. Since the age of 11 months and a year and a half-ish, about there. She took on these two children and has been raising them. They're now 6 and 7.
Wow.
And have been raising them, going hunting, fishing, trapping. She's in really good health most days, and takes them to the city. She does a lot, takes them walking and playing and swimming every day, when they can. She's bringing them to Vancouver in June for 2 weeks for a holiday. And I'm like, wow, how does she have the energy to do that stuff? But again, it helps her stay healthy. It helps her eat healthy, helps her get physical. It is a lot of work on her. I wish I could relieve her, but I don't live in Ontario. Just to give her those breaks to go have fun herself and just, go hang out with her own family and friends without having to drag the kids everywhere. But that's our responsibility in our families too, right? So taking care of our kids because of, what's happening in our community. So
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's amazing. And I'm sure, a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old, my little brother is 11. So I can just imagine how young it keeps her having the kids around, and it keeps her like busy and not thinking, like she's still very needed in her days. So she's gonna like
She's still on
cultivate
it.
the energy.
Yeah, she's still on a couple advisory committees that she participates on. She still drives to the city 5 hours away in her 4x4. And I'm like, Mom, you should be driving in the snowstorm to a meeting. She goes, oh, I love to just drive, just be by myself. And I'm like, wow. So, that's my teacher as well, right?
Yes.
How to be an elder, how to be respectful, how to because we were talking the other day is that our elders in our family, like my dad's side, they passed away quite young, 50s, early 50s. And then I think my one auntie was almost 80, I think. And then on my mom's side, yeah, it's like my grandma was 70, 75, I think. And my mom is now 79. So our lifeline is not too long because of the hardships and the past hurts and pains. So hopefully I'll live longer. My mom will live longer, those generations will keep, we're eating healthy. We have more, like I have more money to spend on quality food, and I have quality food where I live, where you're living paycheck to paycheck sometimes, and it's tough.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to ask you, just because I know you guys have, well, in the Indigenous community, I know rites of passage is like very important. So I want to ask you, what is the significance of rites of passage programming for young people in the community?
I can only speak on my daughter's experience. We had ceremony actually when she was in me. We had ceremony because I was always so scared because it's my baby, my precious gem in there, and so had ceremony while I was pregnant with her, and then when she was born, her dad spoke the language to her right away, and we kept her placenta and different things and did ceremony with that to keep her connected to the land. When she became 1 year old, her first birthday, we had I think it was quite the grand birthday party. It was quite huge, and yeah, she did great. So she got a baby name, Stray, which meant strawberry, and then you know I guess like in church they have like godparents and things like that. But I think our daughter was really raised by her community looking after her as well, her aunties, uncles, and first, second, third cousins, and making sure that she's walking a good path. And then when she became a teenager, a young woman, when she starts her moon time, as we call it, her dad did another ceremony for her up in the mountains to really focus, and then she ended up getting her grandmother's traditional name. So it's names handed down through lineage. So we'll have that, and then she'll probably have another one ceremony when she probably marriage. So that was her coming of age ceremony, that once she went up the mountain, probably marriage. And then I think death is another one. So when people die, they have lots of ceremonies and they have celebrations 4 years after. Some are 1, some are 4 years after, to celebrate all the people who supported, to share her picture or who's ever passed on, so their picture. So there's that another ceremony after that. So there's quite a few ceremonies that our children will have to follow and hopefully continue that journey. Yeah.
Okay. And so like significance, like how do you feel it, like do you find ceremony being very significant? Does it, like, these rites of passage experiences, do you feel that it like really adds to the present person and like the future person that they become?
Yes, I think it's so important for our people to celebrate whatever journey their family participates in, um, to give them a solid base, to give them the responsibilities. There with names, with ceremony, there all comes responsibilities. Our children, our people need responsibilities. Our people want to be so when you go into the longhouse, you may be recognized by your ancestral name, or by the elders by your name. They won't use your English name. So it's really important to carry on those traditions. It's important for our kids to learn those ceremonies so that they could share that with their kids. Again, we think about the next 7 generations, right? So we're not just thinking about ourselves and our own little journey, but if our people stop it, our identity could stop.
Yeah.
You know, and our foundation of who we are. Even for me, just having, those 3 names, that is my pillar of strength. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that, if I didn't go into ceremony to get all those names. And those are names that I didn't ask for. Those were given to me.
Right.
And so I feel so strong. I feel connected to my families, my community. I feel a sense of pride, sense of belonging. And we want our daughter to have that same foundation. I hear her talking with her friends, and her friends, sharing at a different level. And I just love it how they, sometimes certain ages when you're growing up, you'll avoid certain things or you're embarrassed of certain things. And her being involved with the canoe journey, and sharing traditional songs and dances with her dad's group. She'll go out, do those things, participate, practice. So it's pride.
Yeah.
It's really pride, and not all families do it. But we can only hope that people see the value. But again, addictions play into a big role, and some of our past history play in that because they weren't taught those things.
Exactly.
So can't expect everybody to know it.
Yeah.
Learn as much as they can.
Yeah. What stuck out to me that you said is responsibility. Like that word really stuck out. And I think because what I notice with young people is they don't want responsibility, but then they feel lost when it comes to purpose. And it's like you can't, I feel like they're 2 sides to the same coin. And so, you're right, rites of passage is important because it grounds you into responsibility and purpose, and for you to understand why, not just here you can't do this and you have to do that, but why, and then how does this take you to your future self that you ultimately are supposed to become. So yeah, that definitely stood out, and I know this is so much value. Do you do any rites of passage work at all, or do you see what you do now as rites of passage work?
I think we go home to Ontario every summer and we get involved in our ceremonies. So depending on what is available to us at that time, we participate in. So they have different ceremonies as well, whether it's lodges, wet lodges, namings, early morning kind of circles. We go into our teaching lodges, participate in different cultural events, whether that's ribbon skirt making. We have a rebirthing ceremony that I went through. So yeah, there's a lot. So that's why it's important for me and my daughter to go home every year, even though because it's my culture, which is totally different than her and her dad's.
Okay.
So listen, we're West Coast,
Right.
and I'm from Northern Ontario, so it's a different culture, different, a lot of the same values, but again, maybe a little different teachings, how things are done. yeah, so when I got married, we did the strawberry ceremony, because it's was part of my culture that our elders taught and directed us to. So, we try to incorporate as much as we can. Again, we're living in two worlds
Yeah.
in an urban setting. So Vancouver is a huge city.
Yeah.
So it's trying to take in both, those two worlds and find balance.
Right.
Because we're always like, could you be native enough? Or are you trying to, like, even my light hair, people are like, oh, are you trying to be white? And I'm like, no. I'm transitioning into my natural color of gray one day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My hair is dark. So it really depends. And sometimes even for our children, going gray means that over the hill. And some of our, even my daughter is afraid of that. She doesn't want me to get old. Because me and her are just like best friends and she doesn't want to lose me.
Yeah.
She's thinking you go gray that you're gonna die. So,
No, 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 no.
you know, but that's what kids think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, that loss and that grieving, she sees my mom getting older. She's lost her great grandmother, when she went through that transition, she's lost her great grandfather, no, yeah, great grandfather, and another great grandfather in her short life. So she sees that loss. So she's trying to keep it. As long as she can. So it's just, again, more talking and more understanding about the beauty of aging and growing old and to celebrate this next stage of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So like just through rites of passage, you said you go back to Ontario sometimes. So when you are doing whatever work that you do as part of those sessions, what would you say the most important lesson you've learned over the years have been?
I think the most important lesson is listening and observing.
Mm.
Listening and observing and appreciate what I have in front of me
Mhm.
and being thankful of what I have.
Yeah.
I think those are, and I try to teach that to my daughter at a young age. Be thankful for what you have, what you have done today. Learn as much as you can. My dad had said, go learn. My late dad had said, go learn the white man's education, but also keep our education so that you could weave them together to be a stronger person.
Yeah.
So that you can go back home and help your people in the future.
Yeah.
So I think I've done that and I'm doing that. I still have lots to grow and learn, but sharing those stories
Mhm.
and skills and learning what wisdom is and respect. I think we gain more knowledge of those things as we grow older. We
Yeah.
don't have maybe the same knowledge as respect is at, I don't know, 10, and then, 20, we have a different idea of what respect is. Sometimes we lose it, sometimes we gain it, right? Yeah. Sometimes your kids will do dishes and sometimes they won't, right? So to be a part, just learning all those skills. I see that even my daughter, like, oh my God, mom, you used to do that all by yourself. Like, how'd you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. You just do it. And that's what my mom said. It's a lot of work, but you just do it.
Yeah.
But you love doing it along the way too, right?
Right.
You
Exactly.
got to love doing it and you got to have purpose. I believe you have to have purpose in life.
Mhm.
And when you have purpose, you can get out of bed every day. Get
Exactly.
out of bed every day and do your best. Again, ceremony is really mind over matter, is really just thinking positively about things and knowing that there is hope for the future for our kids. And there's, yeah, it's just make everybody feel special. Want to others what you want for yourself.
Exactly. You were saying ceremony is mind over matter, and what I see here is mindset. Like ceremony puts you on a wealth mindset on so many different dimensions, and in relationship and personal relationship, like so many different things. But I love that. And I have to just say, I mean, thank you for being a living example of, you know, someone who has learned to listen, and, you know, just all the things that you mentioned. So I guess I'm giving you your flowers now and my offering. But so our last question is, do you have a call to action for youth across the globe? So if there's one thing that you could tell youth to do as an elder with wisdom, what would that be?
I guess what I tell my daughter all the time is listen, visit, and learn.
Yeah.
You know, visit, learn, and listen, or whatever way you want to put it. Visit, listen, and learn. Yeah, visit, listen, and learn. And observe your elders. Go help our elders. Maybe you don't want to listen today at your age, but just go mow their lawn. Just go say hi to them. Shake their hand, or just say, can I get you anything? Or, hey, you look beautiful today. Just do all those things. Learn, use your modern tools. If you have modern tools, you know, go videotape them. Go do a TikTok with them. Get them comfortable with using computer, or help them with their cell phone or remote control for some people. You know, give them a break.
Yeah.
Say, hey, can I do your laundry for you, or do you want me to wipe your floors? You know, I see my elders out in the community, and I'll just go over and say hi to them and just acknowledge them.
Yeah.
Just, you know, my mom, I call her all the time just to know she's loved and thought about, even though we live across country. Yeah, involve them as much as you can. Be proud of them, whether it's your parents or your grandparents. Don't leave them alone too long. Yeah, make them feel special and appreciated and valued, and honor them where they're at, wherever they're at. Just be in their presence. Yeah, I just think about all the elders that we met with. I can never take away those special moments that was created at those times of, you know, I was learning from elders. One of the elders would, she's always so beautiful. She would wear her leather skirt and her leather jacket and her red shirt and high heels. And I'm like, I can't even do that anymore. You know, and she was in her mid 70s and come to work, you know, and yeah, she was a young elder, and she's like, she had dark hair. She always dyed her hair too. And then she's like, I don't know why people don't want to help me. Like, I'm mid 70s. And I said, well, you look so young. You look very young and beautiful. And people think you're young, so they don't want to offer you a seat because you're walking around with that skirt and those high heels, and you know, they treat you like probably a young woman. She's like, and I said, well, and your hair is dark, so it's not gray. So people assume old elder is gray, right? So she's like, well, I'm going to transition to my gray hair now. And she said, as soon as she did that, people would pick her up on the side of the road when she's walking. At the bus stop, they would give her a seat. Yeah, they would just like seem like the respect grew because her hair color, which is sad.
Very
sad. My mom goes gray, and then she goes dark, regular color. So she's trying to figure it out. And I said, she can do whatever she wants. If she wants to be blonde today or brown hair, that's okay. Don't judge her. So keep your judgments down, because there may be some issues that they had, based on our history and our culture. But don't overstep elders. Really ask them advice or a direction. Or maybe they won't have anything, because sometimes an elder will tell you a story and you're to find the teachings in it. They won't tell you the teachings or the learning.
Right.
So you got to be listener and to be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
They don't give you all the answers.
Well, they do, but they don't tell you this is the answer.
Yeah. So, so I just think, I make sure that my daughter, because you can only help who will listen.
Exactly.
Right? So I just got to keep telling my daughter over and over. Hopefully she gets it, and other people will see how she treats her elders. And, as long as she's doing it, she's going to be teaching somebody else how to do it. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much, Joanne. Like, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate just everything that you've shared. And I know anyone who watches this episode is going to leave with something to think about. And that's really the intention, right? It's like, I love that I get to be a part of this series, because again, just like your daughter, like I also value the elders that I have around me, and some of them are not even physically around me, but those stories are gold. Those are the stories that I remember like in a moment, and it really helps me to make appropriate decisions. So I thank you so much.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, and great meeting you, and hopefully see you again.
Yes, I hope to meet you again. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.